Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar in partnership with ACTEGA, hosted by Packaging Europe. Today we will find out how ACTEGA has made the metallization process more sustainable with ECOLEAF. I'm Emma Liggins, journalist at Packaging Europe. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Packaging Europe, we are the leading intelligence resource of packaging professionals in Europe and across the world. Via our magazine, website, multimedia channels, and virtual and in-person events, such as the Sustainable Packaging Summit in November, we deliver daily news content, authoritative comment and analysis, case studies, and high-profile interviews with leading industry players, and facilitate dialogue across the packaging value chain. For today's webinar, we are joined by Paolo Gresso, who is Sales Director at ECOLEAF at ACTEGA, Dennis Siepman, who is Global Head of Sustainability at ACTEGA, and Matt Das, who is Managing Director at Springfield Solutions, an all-4-labels global packaging group company. Let's take a closer look at what to expect in today's webinar. The industry-standard technology for metallic decoration and hot and cold foil stamping is far from environmentally friendly. Thousands of tons of foil waste are sent to landfill or burned at incineration plants every year. ACTEGA has reinvented the metallization process by using on-demand metallization. With ECOLEAF, metal flakes are only placed where they're needed. This eliminates the need for PET carrier film and therefore foil reels. In turn, it significantly reduces waste and plastic consumption and minimizes the environmental impact associated with the production and disposal of these plastics. The technology is backed by a life cycle assessment. In this webinar, you'll gain insights into the advantages that the technology offers and how it can help to reduce the Scope 3 CO2 impact. A special focus will be placed on the requirements of the cosmetics and personal care industry. Before we get into our discussion, just a bit of housekeeping. There are 15 minutes at the end of this webinar reserved for an audience Q&A. Make sure to put any questions you may have in the chat and I'll put them to our speakers. If we don't have time to answer your questions, our speakers are happy to follow up afterwards. For any technical questions, please select the support button, which you'll see on the left-hand side of the screen. With that, let's head into the webinar.
Thank you for the kind introduction, Emma, and also a warm welcome from us here, presenting to you from Lehrte, Germany today, from our site ACTEGA Metal Print. For those of you who are not so familiar with ACTEGA, the company behind our ECOLEAF technology, please allow a few words to introduce who we are and what we're doing. So ACTEGA is part of the German specialty corporation Altana. We are experts on the development and production of coatings, sealants, varnishes, printing inks, and plastic compounds. The majority of our products goes into packaging applications to provide innovative functionality, superior touch and feel, and sustainability benefits. Together with our three sister divisions, BYK, Eckert, and Elantas, Altana has a global turnover of 2.7 billion euros and roughly employs 8,000 people worldwide.
Thanks, Dennis. I'm Matt. I'm the Managing Director of Springfield Solutions and all-4-labels global packaging group. And as you can see on the slide, we now truly are part of a global business. We operate in 5 continents across the globe. We have 57 production facilities, over 250 machine installs and 6,000 employees. The reason that Springfield became part of the all-4-labels global packaging group is because we had a shared vision. And that vision is at the top of the screen. We want to become the global leader in the supply of sustainable and digital packaging solutions, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit later during this webinar. But before we do, I'll just give you a little bit more context in terms of Springfield and who we are as one of those facilities. So Springfield Solutions is now the digital centre of excellence in the UK for the all-4-labels global packaging group. It was started in 1975 by my father, and since 2012, everything that's left our building has been printed digitally, be that with HP technology or inkjet technology. Today we have got 5 inkjet presses, 4 of which are in line. And in 2020, we took our first steps into what we call digital embellishment. So we brought in an ABG DigiJet machine, which allows us to add digital spot varnishes and cold foils to our labels. In 2022, we became the first site in the world to install the digital ECOLEAF system, which we'll touch on a little bit more later in the webinar. With our digital mindset, you get all of the things that come with that. So things like no minimum order quantities, so we will produce one label. We've got a 5-day lead time and we can do things like personalization and variable data print. The middle pillar that you can see on the screen is part of a journey that we've been on since 2019, and that's to become a more carbon-friendly business. So we've had a number of different sustainability objectives during that last 5 years, a lot of which have been around our energy usage and how we go about generating energy, either through our solar panels or through bringing it in from a renewable source. We've got 9 climate champions within the business. We're all working on separate projects to be able to allow us to make inroads into becoming a more sustainable business. And that culminated last year by becoming the Environmental Company of the Year at the Digital Labels and Packaging Awards, which is something that we're extremely proud of. The final pillar is obviously why we're here today and what we're going to be talking about in detail, which is the ECOLEAF, or as we like to call it, the Starshine solution that we have. We're the world's first installation of the digital version of this solution, and we're particularly focused on the markets that you can see on the screen, such as the personal care, which you'll see some examples of in a moment, beers, wines and spirits, beauty and cosmetics markets.
Thank you for the introduction to Springfield Solutions, Matt. So let's look at the topics we want to cover in our webinar today. Obviously, the key word in our industry, in packaging, but also in chemistry today, is sustainability. So we are going to investigate what are the main drivers for sustainability innovations in our industry, coming from either consumers, but also from other market players or even from regulators. Then we are going to introduce our main innovation, which addresses and tackles the topic of excessive waste generation in surface metallization. We're going to show you how our ECOLEAF technology can provide a revolutionary approach to label finishing and to tackle topics like excessive waste generation. Last but not least, we have invested into some in-depth analysis of the environmental impacts of metallization. We are going to look at CO2 emissions. We're going to share some insights into those studies that we think might be of worth to you as well. So if you look at this slide here, it provides a very brief cutout of the current regulatory landscape that we have in Europe. On a substance level, we see that we have increased regulation. The use, for example, of substances like bisphenol A, like certain plasticizers or even fluorinated compounds, today is highly regulated, or the use is even banned in the European Union or other relevant parts of the world. So handling such substances or even finding alternatives and developing alternative solutions requires a very specific set of expertise, I would say. At ACTEGA, we have very early made the strategic decisions to enter markets which require such an expertise, for example, the market for food packaging. And we have done that with all associated consequences. So that means we have built up the technical infrastructure, but even more importantly, we have the right people with expertise on certain regulation and the know-how to translate market regulation into solutions that our customers can build their solutions up on the lower side of the slide, you see another set of rules, for example, the SUPD, the single-use plastic directives, or the PPWR, packaging and packaging waste regulation. These also have an even more profound impact on the packaging market as they define the types, the formats, and some of the compositions for packaging which are allowed to be put on the market. The goal of these regulations is to reduce the amount of material which is produced for packaging and then in the end of its life becoming waste, and therefore also to minimize the environmental impact in the end of packaging. So if you are a market player who puts packed goods onto the market, which basically almost everyone is, this calls for immediate action. If you look, for example, at larger brands and brand owners, they have anticipated that change of packaging in the last 2 or 3 years in a very specific way. For example, simplification of packaging, the reduction of material, also a trend of paperization, as we've seen a lot in the market, has been driven very highly by regulation and also by consumers' pressure to have more sustainable packaging options. At ACTEGA, our innovation tactics and also our innovation roadmap support this idea and support the circular economy. So we want to help and support our customers and the industry in making the switch from packaging solutions, which are quite heavy on the environment, to options which are more environmentally friendly. Examples in that regard are our barrier coatings, bio-based varnishes for paper-based packaging, or even systems which cure with a very low energy consumption. This clearly shows ACTEGA's commitment to reduce the environmental burden of packaging. Additionally, this commitment is also rooted in our business line strategies. Last year, we have produced 15,000 individual products and provided them to the market. And with those 15,000 products, we have touched the lives of billions of people. And with that comes obviously a certain responsibility, but also a chance to have an impact. We use this impact and together with our partners, with our customers, aim at the essence of sustainability. So we want to support the market, support the industry and our customers in helping to satisfy the needs of society without endangering the ability of future generations to cover their needs by using the resources that are provided by the planet. On top of that, we have high investments in our sustainable technologies and in sustainable products. Last year, we have made roughly 20% of our turnover with products which have a clear and defined sustainability benefit. But we are not just looking at products, we are also looking at our own operations. For example, the whole Altana group in the past 10 years have managed to reduce its emissions in Scope 1 and Scope 2 by 70%. And we are currently working on further decarbonization of our operation, and you can expect us to have the same ambition level here in that project as well. But now we have more or less talked enough about the industry, about the packaging industry itself, about us as a company, and we would like to introduce to you the innovation called ECOLEAF, which is the main topic of our webinar today. And I hand over to my colleague Paul for that.
Thank you very much, Denis, for this very inspirational and informative view on the sustainability aspect of ECOLEAF, which is certainly one of the driving pillars of this technology. But keeping this in mind, the developments of ACTEGA, we have developed ECOLEAF, which is a new category of metallization. With highly reflective and impressive metallic effects, ECOLEAF offers a demonstrably better CO2 footprint compared to conventional methods, and it's ideal for label applications. Now, just imagine metallization like traditional methods, but with less waste. Better than metallic inks, similar to cold transfer, but generating almost no waste. High shine and relief metallic embellishment can be achieved through flexible finishing options which are available without the need for extra tools. Just imagine, we as a reliable partner, we take responsibility for your impact. We have a deep understanding of what drives you. We know where we play along the value chain. Our technology can help reducing your Scope 3 targets. We have a certified full life cycle assessment for our technology, justifying our claim. This is ISO 14000 certified, and the values from this LCA can be transferred onto your units, on the labels that you produce and print every day. So this can become your benefit as a brand owner to reduce your Scope 3 emissions. We can back up what we say, and we are here to help meeting your emission targets.
Since we're talking about Scope 3 emission reduction, it might make sense to look at the definition of those terms. Although, I mean, Scope 1, 2, and 3, it's becoming more and more daily vocabulary in business as well, and the terms are more or less widely known now. But nevertheless, let's look at the definitions once more. So Scope 1 emissions are all the emissions that are associated to the processes which happen on a certain production site. So if you're running a company, you're burning gas to heat your offices or to run certain processes, all the emissions that are associated with that fall under the Scope 1 definition. On almost all production sites, electricity is consumed as well. And on the majority of those, not all electricity is produced on its own. So when you're buying electricity from an external source, from a power plant, which is driven by gas, coal, or even nuclear power, emissions are generated. And all of those emissions are put into the Scope 2 bucket. And last but not least, talking about Scope 3 emissions, these are the emissions which happen along the value chain. So either upstream, looking at our suppliers, for example, the raw materials in the first category and the emissions associated with the production of the raw materials we are using, but also transportation of those materials from our suppliers to the company, and then looking at the downstream category, the transportation of our finished goods to our customers, for example. There are emissions associated with that as well. Now, combining Scope 1, 2, and 3, those are called the corporate carbon footprint. And this is a very relevant number, not just for reporting to the authorities, but also to know your baseline for further reduction in the future.
So just imagine eliminating plastic carriers and reducing waste. Not only by using the ECOLEAF technology, you are creating less waste, but bringing less plastic into circulation, from production to transportation to usage to recycling or burning. With 1 kilogram of ECOLEAF flakes, we are able to replace up to the usage of 3 tons of plastic foils of all types. ECOLEAF is really on-demand metallization. You can place and use the metal flakes which you need only and exactly where they are needed, eliminating completely the need for polyester carrier films and therefore foil reels, with all the logistic and machine setup, job changeovers that implies. Reducing tremendously waste and plastic consumption, this significantly improves your environmental profile. And to make you understand a bit better how the ECOLEAF technology works, here we have a short self-explanatory video that explains you how this can be integrated onto any narrow web press. Enjoy.
The first step is to print a trigger image of the required design using a standard flexoplate, silkscreen, or inkjet print bar. The image gets immediately cured. In the metallization unit, we create a seamless monolayer of mirror-like metal particles. At the end of this process, you can overprint the resulting metallic images to achieve colored metallic effects, including gold. 2D effects carry high resolution and are particularly adapted for very fine details. 3D effects are possible and look great in comparison to embossed effects. ECOLEAF can be overprinted to obtain a myriad of rainbow metallic effects, including gold.
So the video that we've just seen gives us a really good explanation of how the technology works, and at Alpha Labels, we're using it in a couple of different configurations. So the key is putting a trigger image down that then hits the metallization unit, as you can see behind me. We do that in 1 of 2 ways at Alpha Labels. One of the configurations we have, it puts the trigger image down as a flexo, so we create a flexo plate, and it goes down as like a clear varnish or a glue, but then goes into the metallization unit, and then it hits our digital print engine, so it goes through and prints in 4, 5, 6 colors, and then you come out with stunning metallization effects. The configuration that we have at Springfield puts the trigger image down as a digital inkjet trigger image, so it puts down the same clear varnish and then hits the metallization unit. We run that offline and then move those reels onto our inkjet presses to create those colour effects that you've seen on some of those examples. But where's the demand coming from? So personal care is a big area for us as a global business, as you can imagine, and there's not one meeting that we don't go into where sustainability isn't discussed and how we're going to help our customers reduce their carbon footprint. So it's a hot topic. However, it's a hot topic where our customers don't want to compromise on their shelf appeal. They still want to attract the consumers, attract their customers, and really jump out off the shelf. So we really want to see these high metallic effects being delivered in a sustainable way, which is where ECOLEAF comes in. So we've been doing some work to show how that could impact some of the customers that we've got on the personal care side. And we've got some really good examples that you can see on the screen here. And I've got a short video which I'm about to play, which gives you an example of how they've been produced. So if you could just play the video.
Here you can see our ECOLEAF unit with the digital print bar at the beginning and then going into the ECOLEAF unit. So we're putting down a digital trigger image which is then going into our ECOLEAF unit, which gives us the metallization effect. Once we've got those, we put them through our printing presses and we're putting down 4 colours plus a white. The samples that you can see here are on a white PP and a clear PP. And what this process allows us to do is to get some really nice metallized effects using the colours from the printing presses over the top of the metallization effect from ECOLEAF.
So that's how we're operating it at Springfield, as you've seen in the video. And just to break that down into a little bit more detail, the example that you can see on the screen here and that I have in my hand is those processes broken down. So you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, we put down the metal effects generated by the ECOLEAF. And what you can see in terms of the coverage there is 8.5% of that label is using a metallic effect. Now, if you're trying to do a foil saving on that particular example, it becomes quite difficult because of the spacing in between where the foil is placed. Once we've got the metallization effect, we'll move that over to our inkjet presses, and you can see that we're getting some really nice metallic colours over the top of some of those metallized areas. Move on to the next slide. So with that 8.5% metallization across the label, we're really starting to make an impact in terms of our carbon emissions. So if you compare that to a more traditional cold foiling process, we're using up to 6 times less emissions to generate a similar effect if we was to use the full width of that cold foil, which is what we do at Springfield. We don't use a cold foil saving process. We use the full width, so that would be our saving. If you was to use, which is what is represented on the graph there, so if you can see the pink bar, that's the 100% usage, the full width of the foil, and the green bar is what we actually use with an ECOLEAF process. If you was to use a foil saving process, you're still going to use up to 3.5 times less emissions. So it's a very powerful tool in terms of looking at reducing your carbon emissions. They've all been calculated using ACTEGA's LCA, which is available for any customer to use. So if you've got an artwork file that's got metallized effects on it, we can run that through this analysis tool, and it will give you an example of what your carbon emission savings are going to be.
Well, also if we look at labels which have an even higher metallization rate, we have some figures on that as well. So this example here shows a label which has a metallization surface of 24% coverage. So even higher. You can see that usually in premium products to show a very high value and quality of the product. So, and also here we have a very significant impact in terms of footprint and CO2 emissions. If you look at the bars once again and compared to cold foil metallization here, ECOLEAF only has an impact of 28% in terms of CO2 emissions compared to the conventional metallization process. And that is very significant, I would say.
Definitely, it is. Dennis, it's impressive how this technology can revolutionize the market from a sustainability angle. But there are also a good number of technicalities and technical effects which can be achieved using ECOLEAF in your daily processes for metallization. We can get, for example, very highly defined details. So in the fine lines, in the small fonts, in the negative areas of your labels, the level of detailing that we can achieve with our Flex UV trigger image application is much better than the conventional methods. And ECOLEAF definitely offers a high gloss, a high shine in terms of metallic effect, so the so-called eye-catching at the point of sale, but it also offers a deep opacity, so it's really good quality. And it can be overprinted in a very simple way. You basically create your metallic colors, your special metallic effects that you desire. So this opens up an entire portfolio for creativity, for the designers, for the marketing teams at the brand owners to make online instead of using a swatch book to pre-select from existing colors. So ECOLEAF can be overprinted with inks, but also with varnishes, of course, to protect, but also to enhance the applications. Last but not least, the relief effects that can be obtained by using ECOLEAF in an inkjet trigger image technology, or by rotary or flatbed screen, where we can create 3D or so-called doming or haptic effects also on non-embossable substrates like films, and all of that completely toolless. So the benefits in terms of usage of ECOLEAF, we can say that this is an industry standard technology for embellishment, which is hot or cold foil transfer, is anything but environmentally friendly. ACTEGA has reinvented completely this process, eliminating polyester carriers, so eliminating the need of plastic, and allows you to use only the amount of metal when you need it, where you need it. ACTEGA is a partner who cares for their customers. So with ECOLEAF, we give you a certified assessment. This is a certified assessment technology to justify our claim. It's an ISO 14000 certified process. So these values can be transferred onto the single unit that you produce day by day. So it's a very simple, effective way to reduce your CO2 impact. Flexibility. Really, ECOLEAF offers an endless rainbow of metallic colors which can be created on demand, because by overprinting using inkjet or flexo inks, you can achieve any color that you need. So an endless rainbow of metallic effects can be realized, leaving you the highest degree of creative freedom, forgetting about existing swatch books where you need to start from selected colors. On-demand metallization at your fingerprints, extremely easy to use and to run and to understand for the operators in the press room. The artworks can be changed very quickly. As a designer, as a brand owner, you can create limited editions. You can go for late-stage differentiation. and you can create personalized products. It's really on-demand metallization. ACTEGA helps you to swim against the tide without obstacles, because today ECOLEAF is an extremely stable industrial solution offering high printing speeds. We are talking today 100 meters per minute, and this is a growing figure. It's extremely simple to integrate on any existing or new narrow web press, being a flexo UV machine or a rotary or a flatbed screen inline, offline press, like those that we have here in our background in our competence center today, or even hybrid inkjet presses, which are more and more becoming predominant in the market. It's already integrated into renewed printing houses. We have a testimonial here today. So this technology is truly available for the mass. And now stop imagining. Let us make a comparison and improve the ecological footprint of your products with a comparable effect. We can help you to reduce your CO2 emissions according to Scope 3 with a streamlined lifecycle assessment tailored for your application. So we offer you to compare your existing labels directly with the label where the metallization will be replaced with ECOLEAF. So please drop us a message with your request for a meeting, or just ask for our new samples folder for evaluations. And we will be really happy to explain you deeply and more about this revolutionary technology.
Thank you, Paolo. And now I think it's time for our Q&A session. I think we have some very good questions here. And yeah, as Emma said in the beginning, please bear in mind, we cannot cover your question here. We will follow up with you individually. So Emma.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you for such a brilliant presentation. And just to reiterate, yes, we're moving into the Q&A section. We've already had some great questions coming through. Please continue to send them. If we don't manage to get through to everyone, as has been said, don't worry, the team will follow up with you individually after the session. So on that note, someone has asked, what is the cost of ECOLEAF versus hot or cold foiling?
Should I take this one? So ECOLEAF has, we mainly sell ECOLEAF through a pay-per-use business model, which is a very modern way where the printer does not need to anticipate, let's say, capitals for the consumables. So it's a very dynamic solution where the printer only pays for what they effectively consume at the end of the month. And if you have a low coverage, you're going to pay for a low coverage price. And if you have a higher coverage, the price is going to be higher. So it's very proportional to the coverage on the label. And considering that the great average of the products in the market carry from 1% to 20% of metallic effects, you understand that the saving is a lot, because with the conventional processes, if you are lucky, I mean, you are going to waste 95% of the raw material that you buy. So the saving is a very important saving at the end of the day.
Thank you very much. So another question, apart from the metallic effect, does the printed material provide barrier of any other kind, for instance, water, oxygen, oil resistance?
No, this is a purely metal decoration. So we transfer extremely thin metal flakes onto the substrate, but those do not act as a barrier at all. On the other hand, the advantage of using ECOLEAF is that number one, it's microwavable, so you can place your products with these metallic effects directly into the microwave, nothing will happen. But more important is at the recycling facilities, because ECOLEAF does not act as a barrier into the NIR scanners to read through the type of plastic container that contains that is covered with the label. So let me say it remains transparent and does not create any barrier. So the product can be identified and recycled as PE or as a PET bottle and separated. So ECOLEAF does not act as a barrier at all.
Adding on top of that, Paolo, we have tested and verified the impact of ECOLEAF on current waste sorting and recycling processes with an external party as well. So it made sense for us to involve someone who is has high expertise in the field of waste sorting, and then we ran some samples through the process and noticed everything what Paolo just said, that it doesn't really have an impact.
Thank you. So what substrates have you tried this on? Have you tried any non-standard materials like renewables, compostable materials, recycled materials?
We have tested ECOLEAF, I would say, on the great majority of the self-adhesive substrates available from the market. ECOLEAF acts extremely well on coated papers and coated substrates, on films, and I would say on recycled films we actually found better results, better performance compared to the traditional foils. So yes, ECOLEAF works well also on recycled materials. But of course, the variety of substrates is so wide and so spread in this industry that it's always better to have a specific test in case it's one of those materials we haven't tested yet.
Yeah, from a digital perspective, we've tested a number of the substrates that we use day in, day out, and like you said, the papers and the films, the plastics, the PPs and the PEs all seem to work really well. And our portfolio, given the sustainability nature of our business, that compromises quite a lot of PPs that have the PCR content in them, and they've been a success.
Thank you. So somebody else has asked, what speeds can be achieved?
Today, I think I mentioned during my presentation, we can run up to 100 meters per minute easily, I would say, on digital and flexo applications, of course. But this is a speed that we keep on growing. I mean, when I joined the company just a few years ago, we were barely at 40 meters, and today we are more than double than that. And the aim is to continue growing to enter also other fields and sectors, not just the label industry.
I think that very much aligns with the configuration. So I talked earlier about different types of configuration that we have at all for labels. It really depends whether that's inline or offline, and also the type of effect that you want. If you put a higher trigger image down to get tactile effects, that has an impact on the speed as well. So there's variation in the speed, but as Paolo says, it's getting quite fast now.
Yeah, it's definitely determined by the application process of the trigger image, whether it's inkjet, of course you have a certain speed, screen printing is a bit lower, but flex UV is 100 meters, and we will keep growing.
Thank you both. So we've had a few questions about whether over varnish or protective varnishes are required to use ECOLEAF.
I would put it like this. This is not an ECOLEAF requirement to be varnished, but as we know, most of the labels in the industry, they get varnished with water or UV coatings in order for anti-scratch, let's say for scratch resistance. So yeah, ECOLEAF can be varnished, and I think.
Yeah, the best results that we've had have been using our standard varnishes, gloss or matte varnish, You're right in the fact that you don't have to, but at this stage we recommend that you do.
Okay. Another question asks, have ECOLEAF labels been tested or certified to be acceptable through Recyclas or APR for recycling?
So far, well, the recycling that has been tested was done by an external service provider, as I have mentioned in the previous question. So as I said, we have run ECOLEAF labels through the whole sorting and recycling process, and we just wanted to check if it has an impact. First of all, in sorting, is it detectable by NIR? Does it interrupt the near infrared process of sorting paper-based, polyolefin-based materials from each other? So that step was negative, so it didn't have an impact at all. And afterwards, we also checked the recyclability of the underlying substrate, and also that came out positive. When you talk or when you address Recyclas, we currently have it not certified by Recyclas, but we're currently looking into that.
Thank you. We've had a few questions asking about the kinds of shapes that ECOLEAF can be printed onto. Is it limited to flat shapes? Can it be printed on round objects? Somebody was asking whether it could be printed onto a beverage can. So what kinds of objects can ECOLEAF be applied to?
No, then I will take this one. ECOLEAF is a technology today only for web printing. So let's say a 2D substrate where we print, we metallize the self-adhesive label, okay, which is then applied to the object. ECOLEAF is not a direct-to-object printing technology. That is not available. So no matter whether it's a can, a glass, or whatever, but no round objects, it has to go on a substrate, which is then transferred as a label to a product.
Brilliant, thank you. Someone wants to know what locations this technology is available for use in. So where can our customers access ECOLEAF?
Well, I would say that we have installations here in Europe and somewhere in US already is coming. But where brand owners and printers are welcome to come and take trials of any kind with our technology is right here in Hanover, where ACTEGA Metal Print is based, and where we are today in this competence center, where we have 2 ABG offline machines capable of injecting or flatbed screen printing with ECOLEAF. We then have 2 flexo presses from Gallus, where we can run trials on UV technology with ECOLEAF, and 1 press from Omet, where we can run flexo and rotary screen with ECOLEAF. So we offer, and we really welcome you to visit us to take trials on your substrates, on your graphics, with and without overprinting based on your needs, to appreciate the simplicity of use of the technology and the quality results, of course. And these labels you can take back home, you can then overprint and convert and present them to your brand owners, customers, and we are here to support you fully.
Yeah, from our perspective, we have mainland Europe covered, and obviously in the UK where we're based, we've got the unit. So if there are any customers out there that are further afield than that, then yeah, get in touch, and I'm sure we could help sort that as well.
Thank you. So another asker would like to know how you would spec a metallic reference match, and whether you'll be producing a swatch guide of metallic colours you can use as a standard.
Yeah. This is something that we've worked a lot on since we've had the unit, and even previous to the unit, we've done a lot metallic swatch books using digital printing processes on metallic substrates. We often challenge that. We often, we know that big brands are dedicated to the Pantone library, for example. But we try and challenge our customers to think a little bit more outside the box and create their own swatches, because you've got that flexibility. So, like what Paolo's got here, the sample booklets that we've produced recently have a myriad of different swatches. So if you can't find one that you like in there, I don't think you're ever going to be happy. But we can produce the swatch books. We can produce matches to gold foils, for example, to the Pantone library, for example. It's something that we've been pushing for many years now.
Yeah, and I hope from the camera it's possible to appreciate the shiny and the reflection level of these metallic effects. I think especially in the gold and bronze, copper area. Then of course any other Pantone or desired metallic color can be achieved, but I think in this area especially is the most commonly used. Not forgetting that the base is always a silver effect, and which can then be overprinted, meaning that with one pass you would be able to get in one shot a mix of colors. Whether with the conventional foiling technology you would have to buy and also use, which is most of the time not possible, different reels. But here you create, you make instead of choosing.
I think some of the examples that we've got have got gold and silver on the same design, on the same label. Obviously, to try and produce that in a conventional way would be very expensive and very time consuming. This technology allows you to combine what you would historically have done with different foils with one pass.
Thank you. So we have a name to this question. Mark Brown asks, will it work on printed laminate polymers, such as a toothpaste tube? I know you said it only works on flat substrates, but...
Yes, it would work on laminate tubes, absolutely, because we consider them like a flat substrate. We already tested, and we have machines out in the market producing on tube laminate materials, and I have to say it works really well, because also the surfaces are very smooth. So ECOLEAF is ideal, and like I mentioned before, normally tubes go into the cosmetic industry, so there you can get your haptic 3D or doming effects on the surface, which is extremely nice, interesting, because definitely this is a non-embossable type of substrate. So yes, it's a very good application.
Thank you. And another anonymous question asks, can I use your footprint data to calculate the footprints of my labels if I switch to ECOLEAF?
Yes, you could. Yes, you could. Actually, this is the way we would invite you to compare, let's say, between your existing process of manufacturing labels with the future ECOLEAF solution. Through our LCA, we are able to transfer these values on your specific label, on your specific product, and assuming whatever value, being 1 gram or 1 kilo per 1,000 labels that you are producing of CO2 emissions reductions, those numbers can go into your sustainability balance sheet. So really, instead of installing more solar panels or buying planting trees or whatever other actions, this is really a practical action that goes onto your product, on the single bottle, on the single container of a product that you send to market day after day, and hopefully every year more. So it will have a great impact into your sustainability aspects.
One addition to that, the LCA that we have done for ECOLEAF, actually we have done 2 LCAs because we have already done a review of that based on new technology that we are applying now. This is quite a sophisticated model, and we have some flexibility in that model where we can assume some other values for metallization, for example, and then calculate the environmental impact that are caused by specific area or a specific label. The whole LCA has been verified by third parties, so meaning three completely independent experts looked through it and they rubber stamped the results that we achieved. So as mentioned, I don't know, a couple of times, there's no greenwashing involved. It's very science-based and fact-based values that we can present here. And yeah, we invite you to work with those values as well and to estimate also the impact those values have on your individual footprint.
Thank you. We've had another question through wanting to know, is this technology patented? Yes, it is patented, absolutely. It's a product by ACTEGA. And of course, we license printers around the world that want to invest in the unit, in the technology, so the unit right here. And then the consumables are sold on a pay-per-use business model. So very modern, very flexible, very simple to use. Okay, another question. Does adding the ECOLEAF technology impact the recycling process?
No, it's the easy answer. I mean, depending on obviously the substrate that is being used, if it's recyclable at all, ECOLEAF will have an impact or will not have an impact. But looking, for example, at fiber-based substrates, we have made the experience, and as mentioned a couple of minutes ago, third-party verified also that it does not have a negative impact on either sorting or recycling processes. Obviously, again, depending on geographical area and so on, processes are different everywhere. But we have done that, as mentioned, with a third party and have that evaluated.
Thank you. Somebody else wants to know, what about uncoated substrates? Are they still compatible with ECOLEAF?
No. Okay, so for uncoated, we need to define a little bit this category, let's say the boundaries of what uncoated means. But let's say if we talk about very structured, very open fiber substrates, then the answer is not, but simply because it's not the ECOLEAF technology that impacts, it's the way we print the trigger image, which is UV coating. So obviously, if you have a too much absorbing substrate, then the coating, the glue effect disappears. On the other hand, if we are talking about a slightly absorbing substrate, that might work. So I would say in this way, it's always better to send us a reel. We take a trial for you, and then we can see how it behaves on your specific product.
From a digital perspective, it's the same as printing onto that. We're using the same technology, the inkjet bar. So those more porous materials with the pitted holes, like Paolo was alluding to, struggles with inkjet application, across, whatever you're trying to do with it, whether it's putting a clear varnish down or the colours down, it's a struggle. But that said, there are uncoated papers that we use that work, that aren't those pitted open fibers.
There are limits to every technology, of course, so we have to understand and accept them. Absolutely.
Thank you. Just as a heads up, we are coming towards the end of our runtime, so we'll have time for a few more questions. Is there an option for sheet-fed solution, or is everything related to web-fed?
As of today, it's everything related to web-fed and narrow web. So we are talking about 430 millimeters of web width. This is also growing. So in the future, we will go wider, as the label industry is also moving towards a mid-web range of printing machines. And in the future, yes, there will be developments for the sheet-fed industry, where we know the amount of metallization is much bigger, but this is, let's say, will take a few years from now to.
Thank you. So what about the migration and food compliance? Somebody else would like to know.
Should I answer this one, Dennis?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay,
Please.
so the ECOLEAF is a UV application, being inkjet, flexo, or screen. It is suitable for indirect food contact products, so a label applied on a container that contains a food product.
Thank you. Can ECOLEAF be integrated into existing presses?
Yes, we can deliver it for late-stage integrations into existing machines. Generally speaking, we offer it on the overhead rail system of those presses, so that first of all it can be moved from station to station. Second, because it does not require additional space, additional frames, or stretching the machine. So it's a relatively easy integration that within 1 week we can finish and you are up and running into production. So very easy.
So yeah, so this unit here that you can see the ECOLEAF unit goes up onto some rails and then can be positioned over any station that you've got.
Thank you. We've had a question about how to do the metallized relief. So could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Relief or haptic effects, as we call them, can be realized mainly using screen printing. So this can be flatbed or rotary, and this helps also in the topic of uncoated substrates to get a bit more of penetration into the fibers. But on non-coated substrates, what happens is the coating goes completely on surface and stays there on surface of the substrate, creating these doming effects. Of course, there is a proportion, this is due to graphic designing, let me say, between the haptic effect that you desire and the definition, the resolution of the lines or text that you are going to realize. So you need to find a balance between the height and the width. But having said that, the results are very, very interesting, because not only you have an eye-catching effect, but you also have a tactile feeling when you when the consumer grabs the product from the shelf.
Yeah, I think you see that in some of the samples that we have as well, and it goes down to the trigger image, doesn't it, in terms of how that's being applied on the digital print bar. You have the ability to heighten that, so you can put down 5 micron or 25 micron, and that really sort of lifts that feel. Some of the samples that we've got, we ran at 20 micron to give you a little bit more lift.
Correct, and I would say also ECOLEAF, another feature of ECOLEAF is you would have the possibility to combine 2D and 3D effects in a single line, because, for example, by using the trigger image, by applying the trigger image in a flexo unit and in a screen unit, let me say simultaneously or inline on a press, and then going through the ECOLEAF device with these both trigger images cured, you will be able to get the flat with high resolution and the high with lower resolution at the same shot. And this is again something that would be impossible, for example, with conventional technologies. And that is where you can create new effects and when the designers can present new ideas to their customers.
Thank you. We have time for just one more question. How does ECOLEAF compare to metallized paper labels in terms of cost and sustainability, or is it only a suitable technology to replace cold foil?
Here I would say that ECOLEAF compares in terms of quality, in terms of costing. We need to understand that in the industry of foils, a good 95 but up to 99% of what printer buys and uses becomes waste a minute later. So ideally, if you load a reel on press which weighs 20 kilos, when you download it, it would be 5 grams less than the original one. So there is a lot of raw material wastage, which is not at all there in the ECOLEAF process, and therefore that is where we become much more cost effective, also by reducing the downtime on press for reels changeovers, for setup, for registration issues. All of that is not required with ECOLEAF.
Yeah, and I think the point about metallized paper, it really just depends on the design. We've got a job going through at the moment where we've done a cold foil metallized paper and ECOLEAF, and we're trying to do the cost comparison. I was hoping I did today, but I haven't got it yet. What we find with obviously digital inkjet printing processes, we tend to be putting a lot of white ink down with metallized papers, which obviously costs a lot of money. So it's that balance really, and it really depends on the designs of the labels. But yeah, hoping to have some more information for you on that soon.
Okay, and just one more thing before we go. How can we get the printed samples?
Yeah, so drop us an email or leave us your message here that you'd like to receive, or contact ACTEGA. Go to the website of ACTEGA ECOLEAF, where you have a landing page specific to request our samples book, and we will be happy to ship them onto you and organize a one-on-one meeting to explain you more about the technology and discuss your applications, your products, which you are then more than welcome to test here in Hanover in our competence center on plenty of machines.
Thank you very much. Okay, I can see there are still a few more questions in the chat. Don't worry if we didn't get a chance to answer your question today. Our speakers will follow up with you afterwards, so you will get your question answered. But that's all we have time for today. So thanks to everyone for joining us. This webinar will also be available on demand within the next few days. So you'll be sent a link to access it in case you want to recap on anything you've seen in today's session. And that just leaves me to thank our experts, Paolo Gresso, Dennis Steepman, and Matt Dast. And thank you to everyone for your attendance.